Remind yourself when you wake to a strangeness of foreign lights through blowing trees out the window of yet another hotel. That home is only where you pretend you're from. What's familiar sends you packing, watching for some lost place called home. You're from wherever you go. That dim, outlandish Civitas Dei, you're a citizen of never was a place. Remember not to feel too much at home.
There's something deeply spiritual, elemental, wild about Lake Michigan's shoreline. We go there to gaze at the horizon. We go there to sink into the rhythms of this great inland sea. We go there to feel the wind, the sun, the sand, and to dream. This is the story of a lakeshore dream. It's the story of a few college professors and their families trying to shape a little refugium, an almost utopian community where their families could spend the summers. They wanted long summer days full of music and conversation, art and play, steeped in the wild presence of the big lake. For a little while, they made it work. I headed out to the lake one day to talk with jazz musician David Jellema, who grew up spending his summers at this artist intelligentsia retreat. David's father, the poet Rod Jellema, was one of the founders of the community, and I wanted to ask David how this little refugium came about and what it has meant to him. The place was sometimes called the Colony, but its real name is Lost Valley, and I love the poignance of that. It suggests both the loveliness and the ephemerality of that summer dream. I'm Debra Rienstra, professor of English at Calvin University. Today I'm talking with David Jellema, who's going to tell us about the history of the Colony. Hi, David.
Hello. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Thanks for talking with us today.
Yep.
So tell us about this place. Tell us about the founding of the Colony.
There's a time in about 1943 that my father and Dirk Jellema, his first cousin, they were living in Holland. They decided that they were going to have an epic hike from Holland to Ludington and just walk the lakeshore.
How many miles is that?
Oh, I think it's like, I don't know, it's more than 120 miles.
Many miles.
Yeah. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks doing the walk.
Why did they want to do this? Youthful exuberance?
I think so. I think Dirk was about 15 and Dad was, about 13 or 12.
Oh, they were just kids.
They were youngsters. And so they just decided that they wanted to explore the lake and do this kind of epic thing.
There was something about that part, that point in the lakeshore and that particular place that stuck in their minds so that later when they became young adults, they wanted to come back to it.
Yeah.
So I understand that your dad and Dirk together had a kind of vision.
Yeah.
And the phrase that I've seen is an artist intelligentsia retreat. What is that? Did it happen?
Well, both of them were intelligentsias. They were both academics, and Dad being a poet and teaching modern English and American poetry at University of Maryland, and Dirk teaching at Calvin, and a whole bunch of people that they knew around Calvin and among family and such who would want to have a community where people who could, there could be musicians, there could be artists, there could be photographers and poets, and have this kind of place where people would interact around the lake. And it was a kind of utopian sort of vision that they had.
And there was a dream of a jazz club that never quite worked out.
That was that I'm not sure what that was initially. I think it was a lodge and a restaurant. But when Dirk bought it, he made a restaurant out of it. There was one wing was fine dining, and the middle of it was a bar, and then another wing was a kind of a dance music hall. It was at that restaurant, and I was 10 years old. We were just sort of down exploring by the lake, and we sat on a dune right next to that, and there was this jazz band playing in there, and I looked at this and I thought, oh, that's what I could do, and it was that band that sort of sparked me. And knowing that I was out there, kind of interested, and they invited me in, maybe it was another Saturday or whatnot, but I got to meet the cornet player, and we talked about mouthpieces. I'm just kind of giddy and such. Bought the record and brought it home, and that's what I learned to play along with.
Yeah. So your connection to this place isn't all joyful boyhood shenanigans. It's deep family connections. And tragedies.
Yeah. Another thing that happened when I was 8. My brother John and two friends, one really close friend from this area, almost like a cousin he was, Bill Smulligan, and then a third boy who was a step cousin from South Carolina. They were coming home from our church, and it was Sunday afternoon, and they were coming home, and there was a new stop sign, and they missed it and got killed. That afternoon, it was they died later that day. So those kind of tragedies, we've had a few among the Jellemas that and the relatives that have all stuck.
You live in Texas now. Why do you keep coming back here every year?
This was the area that was the dining area. This was the dining room, and they would have fine dining and a steak and potato dinner and fish and that kind of thing. And right there, that middle part was the bar. They had a bar, and on the other side there were some. All of that other side was just picture windows, so that you could see the lake and see the sunsets on the lake. And then over here was where that little bandstand was. And so when we were little kids, we would actually the dune came down. That path wasn't there. The dune came right up to the edge of that, and we would sit on that dune and look inside and watch the band. And that's where I first heard the music that I'm playing. Yeah.
So that was the dream of this place, was to be that community in the summer where
and have that kind of imagine the different kinds of inspirations that people got from various moments here. That was something that had altered my life. And Dad's teaching poetry in one of these little places, or, everybody has something from here that was like, formative, and very precious.
About this idea of Refugia as a place where life continues when the outside world is in crisis, or and we create those places, and they aren't really meant to last forever, but they're meant to be little incubators of new life. It seems like that's what this place was meant to be, and was for you.
But it's also kind of continuity for my life. It's sort of a grounding in my own life, because a lot of my life has gone this way and that way and this way and that way, and this has always been here. I've been down here to play for the lake on my cornet and my clarinet.
You played for the lake?
Oh yeah.
How did the lake respond?
The same as it always does. Affirming indifference, let's say.
Yes.
Coming back here, there are ties to that lake, especially, and the it's been a kind of spiritual womb for me. I mean, the death of my brother, my mom's death, first love, hearing a the jazz band for the first time, learning to surf from my brother, and all these kind of really, really formative life experiences that have become so much a part of how I think in terms of my own spirituality, even.
Yeah.
That life is a kind of transience. Life is not permanent. It's not anything you can necessarily count on. Lullaby at Lake Michigan. Hush now. Nights, what we missed all day. The sun before she lit out over the lake, over the unseen edge of the world. Wisconsin. Pastured out to her dark, empty fields, her herds and herds of little lights that whisper to you as they graze up there. Listen far and far.